everyone, welcome back to Tiara Talks. If you love pageant content, deep dives into pop culture, and the conversations shaping today's artists, you're in the right place. Today, we're talking about Tyla, one of South Africa's brightest rising stars. She's been making waves with her music internationally, but along with the fame has come a lot of debate. Some call her a flop, others say she's arrogant, and many misunderstand her identity as a South African. In this video, we're going to unpack the truth about Tyla, her music, her chart performances, and the never-ending discussions about her identity and personality. Let's get into it. Tyla made history by becoming the first African artist to win the Grammy for Best African Music Performance. A huge achievement, but instead of universal celebration, backlash followed. Some critics argue that her songs all sound the same, and others feel that she removed herself from her Black identity, which caused backlash for the singer. This raises an important question. Why do we sometimes tear down people when they finally become successful? Is it jealousy? Or is it about gatekeeping culture? Or is it about the music industry itself? Right now, Tyla is one of the most polarizing figures in music, but how did she get to this point? In late 2019, Tyla started sharing her music online, blending pop, R&B, and her unique amapiano-inspired sound. At first, she was just another dreamer uploading songs and covers, but behind the scenes, she worked relentlessly. Tyla spent hours writing, recording, and refining her voice, determined to make it onto the South African music scene. Her big break came when her debut single, Getting Late, featuring Cool Drink, went viral, capturing the energy of Joburg's youth. The song's success put her on the map, but Tyla didn't stop there. She kept pushing, perfecting her performances, growing her international fan base on social media, and proving she wasn't a one-hit wonder. For years after the success of Getting Late, her single, Water, exploded worldwide, earning her a Billboard Hot 100 entry and even a Grammy. From late-night studio sessions in Joburg to global stages, Tyla's rise is a story of persistence, authenticity, and undeniable talent. And this is only the beginning of her journey. Still today, some call her an industry plant, others call her a flop. Twitter users say she's arrogant, and many criticize her for embracing her colored identity. So, what's actually going on here? Is Tyla actually failing? Or is she simply caught in the crossfire of culture wars, xenophobia, and the way pop music is changing? Let's start with the word people love, throwing around online. Flop. Now, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't call myself a diehard Tyla fan, but I can appreciate some of her songs. I especially love Art. Her most recent songs have been hit or miss for me, personally. That said, does that make her a flop in my eyes? Absolutely not. Here's the thing, in the US, a lot of people are judging her success based on album sales, meaning physical copies. But Tyla's rise came through streams and global virality. Those are two different markets. What looks like underperformance in America doesn't erase the fact that she's thriving in South Africa, across Africa, and even in Asian markets, where her fan base is growing fast. Tyla's music has amassed an impressive 2.9 billion total Spotify streams, including more than 1 billion streams just for her breakout single, Water. Her self-titled debut album alone earned over 630 million streams within its first week, eventually surpassing 1 billion total streams across all time. Her debut album, Tyla, landed at number 24 on the Billboard 200 with about 24,000 album equivalent units, including 3,100 pure sales, in its first week, and not many people can say they've achieved such a feat. Her EP We Wanna Party didn't make the Billboard 200, but debuted at number 11 on the World Albums chart, selling only around 3,700 units in the US, despite exceeding 60 million Spotify streams. The Billboard charts only take into account sales and streams done in the US. So, I don't believe these figures are an accurate representation of how well her EP is performing globally. A big part of the backlash also came from people pointing to Tyla's Billboard chart performance. Compared to her massive streaming numbers, hundreds of millions of plays, her US sales looked small. But this really shows how the industry has changed. Sales used to be the gold standard.
Now,
Streams and TikTok virality carry weight. The Tyla case forces us to ask, should we still value physical sales as the ultimate proof of success, or are we clinging to outdated standards? Furthermore, being a so-called flop in music also doesn't mean you flopped in life.
I want to unpack 3 points that I think were completely missing when it comes to this conversation. 1, Tyla dropped a 4-track EP. It had one feature, Wizkid. If Tyla is attempting to break Black America, I think we're missing something. And that would be either more features or a feature that already has Black America in a chokehold. Number 2, this is called the proof of concept. As a business owner, once you have been developing a product, you want to put it through a testing phase to see whether the positioning works. A lot of conversation has revolved around the fact that maybe this project didn't have as much marketing budget behind it. And I actually think this is intentional.
Tyla is only in her early 20s, and careers pivot all the time. She's already won a Grammy, which is something most artists never achieve. People doing these comparisons always fuel so much of the backlash. Global streaming success does not always translate to traditional sales numbers, especially in the US. Tyla's massive streaming figures demonstrate her real impact, even if US unit sales seem low by conventional standards. A big reason Tyla faces hate is actually not because of her music, it's cultural.
This girl stole a Grammy award from Davido. This girl stole BT award from Nigerians. This girl she don't thief more than 5 different awards from Nigerians.
Another layer to this controversy is the argument over cultural authenticity. Some people believe that Tyla is not deserving of some of the awards she has won, as she is not an Afrobeat artist. Others believe her Grammy win was undeserved and should have gone to more established or seasoned African artists, like Davido or Thames. Others argue that though she is not an Afrobeats artist, even though she does blend some Afrobeats in some of her music. Music has always been about evolution and fusion. Afrobeats, amapiano, Afropop, all grew from blending musical influences. And this is what Tyla is doing with her new sound, called pop piano. And for the Grammy win, it is undeniable the hold Water had on many music lovers when it first came out. The conversation didn't just stay on music. Since late 2024, Tyla's racial identity became part of the discourse, with a large part of the backlash coming from her identity as a colored South African, a word that wasn't well received in many Black spaces. This complicated her relationship with many in the African American community. Tyla's story shows how identity politics often shapes music success today. In an era where representation is so important, it's an issue that's bigger than Tyla. It touches every artist coming from diverse and multicultural backgrounds.
Of being Black for them. Tyla does not want to be called Black because to her it would be a downgrade. Now, she came into the American market thinking that that was going to fly. It did.
If Tyla wanted to use the word colored, that's good on her. Black Americans are just not going to engage with it. I have people telling me, oh, you need to educate yourself about being colored. No, you're not going to Jim Crow my Black ass. She could take her ass back to South Africa where they got that apartheid going on.
Then there's the cultural gap. Tyla and many South Africans have made it clear, multiple times, that the term colored isn't an insult, like it is in the States. When Tyla proudly identifies as colored, many outside South Africa misunderstand what that means. To some, the term colored sounds like an outdated racial label, but in Southern Africa, it is far more than that. It is an ethnicity, a community, and a culture with its own history, language, food, music, and identity, similar to how people in the United States embrace being Hispanic or people in Louisiana identify as Creole. Colored people are not just mixed race or in between Black and white. Instead, they are a distinct group born out of centuries of blending among Khoisan, African, European, and Asian peoples, who then developed unique traditions. Afrikaans dialects, Cape Malay cuisine, the jazz and goma sounds of Cape Town, and even community values of resilience and humor, all of these are part of what it means to be colored. Much like how Latinos in America celebrate their mixed Spanish, Indigenous, and African heritage without denying their ties to Blackness, or how Creoles in Louisiana proudly claim their French, African, and Caribbean roots, being colored is about embracing a unique identity that stands on its own. So, When Tyla publicly identified as colored, some African Americans accuse her of distancing herself from being black. Charlemagne from The Breakfast Club even pressed her about it. For South Africans, it felt unfair. For many Americans, it felt confusing. That clash shows just how easily language can divide people when cultural context is missing. Importantly, identifying as colored does not mean rejecting blackness or claiming to be better than black people. In fact, many coloreds see themselves as part of the broader African community while still cherishing their distinct cultural expression. Just as saying I'm Latino or I'm Creole doesn't mean someone is anti-black, saying I'm colored doesn't erase solidarity with black struggles. What Tyla is doing is simply affirming her heritage, a culture she was born into and raised in. To strip her of that and force her into another category is to deny her lived reality. She is not denying her black heritage. In fact, she's spoken about being of Zulu descent multiple times and proudly represents her Zulu heritage. She is showing the world that colored identity, like Latino or Creole, is valid and deeply African. Tyla, being South African and unapologetically so, becomes an easy target. When she performs at US festivals, the audience expectations don't always match her style. She's doing amapiano, or what she calls popiano, a sound born in South Africa. It's slower, more subtle, and groove-driven, with hypnotic rhythms that invite you to sway rather than shout. Now compare that to the US pop and R&B scene, which thrives on big hooks, loud drops, and instant gratification. American crowds are used to music that grabs you in the first few seconds and keeps climbing. Amapiano, on the other hand, builds patiently. It creates a mood, a vibe. It's less about explosive peaks and more about the journey. This cultural gap can make her sound feel unfamiliar to some listeners in the States. But that's not failure. That's difference. South African music reflects community, dance floors that last all night, and a deep connection to rhythm. US pop reflects its own culture of fast consumption and high-impact moments. Tyla stands right between those worlds, carrying her roots proudly, while teaching new audiences to feel music in a different way. Another criticism Tyla faces is that she's arrogant. Let's define that real quick. Arrogance means an exaggerated sense of one's importance or abilities. Has Tyla ever called herself the best in the game? No. What she has done is speak confidently about her art, her identity, and her goals. In a world where men are applauded for ambition but women are called arrogant, this feels like a double standard. And let's be real, a young Grammy-winning pop star is supposed to have self-belief. That's not arrogance. That's survival in the music industry. But confidence in women, especially women of color, often gets twisted into something negative. For Tyla, that criticism has been one of the biggest sources of backlash. Of course, not all the criticism is that heavy. Some of it is just pop culture scandal, the kind every rising star goes through. Remember the Britney Spears outfit drama? Tyla was accused of copying a well-known Britney look, and people were quick to drag her for it. Did she handle it perfectly? Maybe not. She could have leaned into it more playfully instead of being defensive. But here's the thing. Pop music thrives on referencing the past. Every new pop girl channels someone before her. Madonna, Britney, Beyoncé. Tyla doing it doesn't mean she's unoriginal. It just means she's part of that tradition. The difference is that because she's still building her American fan base, she doesn't yet have the same goodwill to fall back on. So every misstep feels bigger than it really is. In the end, what Tyla is facing isn't just about her. It's about culture, perception, and the way the music industry treats newcomers, especially women of color who don't neatly fit into American expectations. She's carving out space for a sound and an identity that's deeply South African, even if not everyone gets it right away. And that tension? That's exactly what makes her rise so important to watch. Tyla's backlash in the US isn't really about her being a flop. It's about cultural misunderstandings, xenophobia, and the way global artists get received when they don't neatly fit into American expectations. She's young, she's already made history for South Africa, and she's experimenting with a sound that not everyone gets yet. Whether you love her music or not, Tyla's presence is forcing conversations about identity, diaspora, and what it means to be global in pop music. So the question isn't really, why do they hate Tyla? It's, what does this say about us as the audience, and who we allow to succeed? At the end of the day, Tyla's journey is about more than one Grammy. It's a reflection of how the music industry is shifting. Streaming platforms, social media trends, and global exposure are reshaping what it means to make it. Instead of viewing this backlash as a purely negative response, maybe we should see it as proof of something powerful. African music has officially entered the global stage, and the debates themselves show just how much the world is paying attention. So, whether you love her music or not, Tyla has undeniably opened doors for African artists. But the backlash she faced also tells us something important. Success today is not just about talent. It's about how culture, identity, and industry collide. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Tyla represents the future of African music on the global stage, or do you think the criticism is fair? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk about it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into pageantry, pop culture, and music.